Episode 1, Surf Tech channel on YouTube. We are here, we're gonna be doing board reviews, technology reviews, wetsuits, fins, any kind of surf related products, technology, services. We're here to review it. Episode 1, we have the long awaited and very popular Channel Islands Happy Everyday Shortboard. I have a good experience. This is my own. This is a demo courtesy of Eastern Lines and Dean Schoonover. And then Hunter also has his own in Spine-Tec technology. So we're gonna kick right into it. I am 5'11" and about 185 pounds. And I ride the 5'10" stock dimensions, 5'10", 19¾ by 2.5, and it's coming in at 31 liters. Hunter?
I'm 5'11", about 140. I ride it as a 5'7", 26 liters. It's 19 wide.
Stock dimensions?
Yeah.
Anyone could
stock,
go and pick one up off the racks or order one in stock.
Yeah, that's our stock dimensions.
Big thing with this channel, we just want to do stock boards that anyone can run into the surf shop, grab, take it out, and have fun on.
Yeah.
So yours is relatively new. You've only had about 2 surfs on it?
Yeah, I got it last week.
Okay.
So
first impressions?
So first impressions, it's like one of my first more performance shortboards that I've ever ridden, because I'm more so longboard, a little bit more gravel, a lot of volume kind of guy.
I guess we should get into, how many years have you been surfing?
About 6-7 years now.
Okay, and what would you say your skill level is?
Advanced intermediate, around there.
Really good on a longboard. I've seen you surf a longboard.
Yeah, I'm getting into the shortboard game.
Definitely. So first performance shortboard?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
Before that I was riding a little bit higher volume boards, like around the 30, 35 liter range. So now I'm dipping into the low 20s.
Cool.
But first impressions, I thought it definitely has a lot more performance. I mean, obviously I could tell it's not floating as much as I'm used to. But with that Spine-Tec epoxy material, it float actually really well. It has a lot of good paddle to it as well. I'm catching pretty much every wave out there. It was quick, it turned really well. It held its own. Had a lot more hold than boards that I'm used to, like swallows or fishes that I would usually ride if I'm riding a smaller board. So it had a lot more hold in those bigger, a little bit bigger waves, a little bit fattier sections. So I was really impressed with that too. And for the 2 sessions that I got on it, I was really impressed.
So for someone transitioning from a fishier, not as high performance shape or longboard getting into shortboarding, would you recommend this board?
Yeah, definitely. For 26 liters, I mean, obviously with the Spine-Tec, I think it paddles a little bit more.
Yep.
Probably paddles 27, 28. So it does have a lot of paddle power to it.
Yep.
And it's not super, super thin, and it's not way too wide to the point where it's crazy. But I think it's perfect balance.
Yep.
To where you can ease into shortboarding, or you're just getting used to it. But I think it was a really great board.
Cool. So yeah, a little bit about my background. Probably been surfing a little bit over 20 years now. Mainly performance shapes, performance shortboards, step ups. I would also say I'm upper end, intermediate, over into the advanced, I would say. But I like to think that anyone can go out there and do what I do. So that's why I like to review these boards. As far as this board goes in the performance shortboard level, I would 100% say they call it the Happy Everyday, especially on the East Coast. I would say that this 100% is an everyday shortboard. I would say you can ride it 90% of the days that you're going to be surfing, whether you're a summertime surfer coming out here for the summer, all year round surfer. I'd still think this covers 90% of the waves. My 5'10" is the PU construction, standard PU, and I've rode it in everything from 1 foot to probably 6 foot. And it holds its own, especially when it gets up to 6 foot, it'll surf and it'll handle 80% of the waves, I would say. But once we start getting some groundswell and there's a lot of water moving around, the paddle is definitely there, but the tail is really wide on these. And that's just where I find that I could really feel the tail kind of dancing on me, as opposed to when the waves get bigger, I'm traditionally on something a little bit more pulled in, tail sinking in.
Yeah.
But the way this board is, I mean, even PU, it just skates over flat sections really well. You could surf, like I said, 1 foot waves and do high performance turns. It's full concave bottoms, so it has a lot of lift in it. That's what a concave bottom does, and you can really feel that. The noses are typically wider than like a standard shortboard, I find, and I think that like easily as far as high performance shortboard goes, this is like a 10 out of 10 on the paddle scale. You're not losing any paddle with this. The rails, for being how thick they are, like my 2.5 rails, I've had boards with thicker like rails on the end. These are actually pretty low, which helps with the sensitivity, I feel. But yeah, overall, I really, really like the Happy Everyday. Like I said, we were lucky enough to get the demo from Eastern Lines and Dean Schoonover, the Channel Islands rep. And this like adds a whole nother zing to it. So the PU was already an amazing board for me, I found. And you could cover, like I said, 90% of the waves. This like really, especially in small waves, just has extra zap. High tide, mush burgers, it skate right over it, really loose. You can get your maneuvers in. Fins I ride in it, Almeric large template, Futures, Tech Flex. They're just my go-to fins. I try to ride them in everything and let the board do the work. And
Yeah, I ride the Almerics as well, mediums.
Okay.
They work just,
Yeah.
they're great fins.
Yep.
but-
Yeah, I mean, I've tried changing up the fins a couple times and was never really crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know, the Almeric fins just in general are really drivey. They're like full at the base, they rake out.
yeah.
I also like to try, if a shaper has their own signature fin that's been tried and improved, I like to try to ride that in their boards. So Channel Islands, throw Channel Islands fin in it, you won't be disappointed at all. Would you conclude that this is like a very good everyday shortboard?
Oh, definitely, yeah. The first day I rode it, it was probably 1 to 3 foot, worked really well, as you were saying, like floated through those flatter, a little bit mushier sections just really well. It maintained its speed really well too. And then the last time I rode it, it was probably 3 to 4 foot, rode really well. And then the other day before that, there was a couple, I mean yesterday as well, a couple bigger than 4 foot waves coming in.
Yep.
And it was actually, it worked well on everything. I had no complaints, as I was saying. Like I know I only have 2 days on the board, but 2 sessions, but it's worked well on everything I paddled out in.
Yep. We'll go through a couple categories and I'm gonna ask
All right.
you and give me a rating.
Yeah.
Paddle. We'll go out of 10,
Paddle.
1 to 10 scale.
I'd give it like a solid 8.5. I think
Okay.
well, I had the Spine Tech as well, so it has
Yeah.
a little bit more float paddle to it, but I think I didn't miss a single wave.
Okay,
It
so paddle.
paddled into everything.
Speed.
Speed, I'd give it like 7.5.
Okay.
Maybe 8. Depends on what the waves are looking like out there. If it's a little bit steeper of a section, it's going to pick up speed a little bit more.
Yep.
But it did have a lot of speed, but 10s, sometimes you would lose speed a little bit, but that could just be like a little bit fattier tail.
Okay.
But it still had a lot of speed. But
Maneuverability.
it was very maneuverable. I'll give that 7.5 again.
Okay.
I mean, since it's a little bit wider, it does lack in some instances, depending on like wave shape, wave size, but I think it turned really well. Handle drops really well.
Yep.
So it was pretty good in that aspect. That's a great score, I'd say, for it.
Cool. Hold. If you want to say hold for like steeper,
Yeah.
bowlier waves.
I think it handles well, but with that little bit wider tail, it doesn't go too big on the size, on the
Okay.
wave height scale, so I'd 7,
Okay.
so.
All right. So on paddle, I know I said 10 out of 10. That was an exaggeration. For an honest review, go 9.
Yeah.
I think if you could get something not as maneuverable, not as drivey, and it'll paddle like a boat. So I'm gonna give this a 9 as far as a high performance shortboard. Speed, I'm gonna go in that 7.5, 8 range. I think they're really fast. They plane really well over flat sections.
Maneuverability.
Maneuverability, I'm going 8 on that. I mean, I've had, especially today on this, I had a really fun surf this morning on this and was able to like kick the fins out. It holds really well. That's the last one, hold, I
Yeah.
guess. Hold, I'm gonna go pretty low just because, like I said, how wide the tail is. It's gonna work in 90% of East Coast waves, but that's generally wind swell, mushy, not very powerful. Hold, I'm gonna go 7.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 7. It has a really wide tail for me. I could really feel that in like long period ground swells. I really felt that. Got a flat tire a couple times, but still that session it worked on 80% of the sections. So overall, I can conclude that this is a great East Coast everyday shortboard.
You think it's worth it? Because it's Channel Islands, they are a little bit pricey,
Yes.
as everyone knows. I mean, it's worth it for the price, but
I think
so I'd say the Spine Tech, they run around like 930 range.
Okay,
and
930
then
for
the
Spine Tech.
PU is around like the 850 range. So
Yep.
would you say that's like definitely well worth the price?
I think that if you have the extra $100 to spend,
Mm-hmm.
you should go with the Spine Tech just because they're EPS epoxy with carbon fiber, which is supposed to hold its flex longer. So I think over time, if you plan on having it forever, if you don't go through boards so much, I think the Spine Tech is a really good option. But if you're going through boards anyway, you have a bunch of boards in the rotation, stuck on the traditional PU construction feel, go with the PU. It's great, you know. I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already, down in the left corner, you can subscribe, or you can subscribe through the channel. Hit that like button and share it around to your friends. I mean, if you like our content, we're going to keep coming out with reviews. We have a bunch of different boards up. I mean, through Eastern Lines, we have all the Channel Islands boards. I've been getting a little bit of my own boards, kind of hot items that people are really ranting about. So we'll be getting you some more reviews, and thanks for tuning in.
Have a good one,
And
guys.
big thank you to our filmer, Morgan Downs. Huge help with the set. A lot of this stuff is his. I mean, the kid is just amazing behind the lens. So big thank you to Morgan Downs.
Yeah.
And thanks for tuning in. Good night.
That went well.
That was cool, guys. You killed it.